An unstoppable visionary, the life of Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill, one of the most prominent figures in British and world history, led a remarkable life filled with political turmoil, personal challenges, and a legacy that continues to resonate today. From his early life as the son of an aristocratic family to his leadership of Britain during World War II, Churchill's journey was marked by resilience, intellect, and an unwavering commitment to his country. This essay explores the major events and phases of Churchill's life, examining his political career, leadership during wartime, and lasting influence on the world stage. Early life and education. Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was born on November 30, 1874, at Blenheim Palace in Oxfordshire, England, into one of Britain's most distinguished families. His father, Lord Randolph Churchill, was a prominent conservative politician and the second son of the 7th Duke of Marlborough. His mother, Jenny Jerome, was an American socialite from Brooklyn, New York, who was the daughter of the wealthy financier Leonard Jerome. Churchill's aristocratic heritage provided him with privilege but also placed high expectations on him from an early age. Churchill had a tumultuous relationship with his parents. His father, though politically ambitious, was distant and often critical, while his mother was frequently absent due to her social commitments. As a result, Churchill was raised mostly by nannies and governesses. His early education was erratic, and he was known to be a poor student, struggling with subjects like mathematics and languages. Despite these early setbacks, he showed a talent for history, writing, and oratory, skills that would later serve him well in his political career. Churchill attended the prestigious Harrow School, where his academic performance remained below average. However, he developed a passion for history, a subject that would become one of his lifelong interests. After Harrow, Churchill attempted to gain admission to the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst. Although he initially failed the entrance exam twice, he persevered and was finally accepted in 1893. Churchill excelled at Sandhurst, where he was an enthusiastic student and graduated in 1894. Early military career and entry into politics. Upon graduating from Sandhurst, Churchill was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the 4th Queen's Own Hussars. His military career took him to various parts of the British Empire, including India, Sudan, and South Africa. In South Africa, Churchill participated in the Second Boer War, 1899 to 1902, where he gained fame as a war correspondent and, later, as a soldier. His capture by the Boers and subsequent daring escape turned him into a national hero, cementing his reputation as a courageous and resourceful figure. In 1900, Churchill decided to enter politics. He was elected to Parliament as a member of the Conservative Party, representing Oldham. However, his political ambition soon led him to switch parties. Disillusioned with the Conservative Party's policies, particularly regarding issues like free trade and social reform, Churchill crossed the floor to join the Liberal Party in 1904. His decision to switch allegiances shocked many, but it was indicative of his willingness to follow his conscience rather than party loyalty. During his time in the Liberal Party, Churchill rapidly rose through the ranks. He served in several key positions, including President of the Board of Trade, 1908 to 1910, Home Secretary, 1910 to 1911, and First Lord of the Admiralty, 1911 to 1915. As a member of the Liberal government, Churchill pushed for progressive reforms, such as social welfare programs, unemployment insurance, and labor rights. His time as First Lord of the Admiralty marked a turning point in his career, as he modernized the British Navy and introduced new technologies, such as the development of tanks. World War I and the Gallipoli Campaign. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 brought Churchill to the forefront of British politics. As First Lord of the Admiralty, he played a crucial role in the early stages of the war. However, his tenure at the Admiralty was marred by the failure of the Gallipoli Campaign, 1915 to 1916, an ill-fated military operation aimed at capturing the Dardanelles and opening a new front against the Ottoman Empire. The campaign resulted in heavy casualties and was widely considered a failure. Churchill was blamed for the disaster and resigned from his position as First Lord of the Admiralty. Humiliated and discredited, he sought redemption by joining the army and serving on the Western Front. His time at the front lines gave him a new perspective on the war, and after a period of reflection, Churchill returned to politics in 1917. His political comeback began with his appointment as Minister of Munitions, where he oversaw the production of arms and equipment for the British war effort. Despite the failures of Gallipoli, Churchill's reputation as a determined and resilient leader was solidified by his contributions to the war effort during this period. He was eventually reappointed to the government after the war, although his political career would continue to be marked by ups and downs. Interwar years and the rise of Nazism. The years following World War I were difficult for Churchill, as he faced both political and personal challenges. The collapse of the Liberal Party and his strained relationships with former allies left him politically isolated for a time. He also faced criticism for his views on issues like the treatment of former colonies and his opposition to the rise of trade unions. In the 1920s, Churchill became increasingly concerned about the rise of fascism and the growing threat of Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. As Chancellor of the Exchequer, 1924 to 1929, he advocated for a strong military and warned against the dangers of appeasement. However, his warnings were largely ignored, and his predictions of the coming war were dismissed by many of his contemporaries. During this period, Churchill's political fortunes fluctuated. He was briefly in the Conservative Party government under Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin, but by the 1930s, Churchill found himself once again in the political wilderness. Despite his concerns about the rise of totalitarianism in Europe, he was unable to sway public opinion or gain the support of his party leaders, who believed that the best course of action was to avoid conflict with Germany at almost any cost. World War II and leadership. The onset of World War II in 1939 would mark the defining period of Churchill's life. As Prime Minister, Churchill led Britain through its darkest days, refusing to surrender to Nazi Germany. His leadership during the war would define his legacy and secure his place as one of the greatest statesmen in history. Churchill became Prime Minister on May 10, 1940, at a time when Britain was facing imminent defeat. The country was under attack from Germany, and the British Expeditionary Force had been evacuated from Dunkirk. The situation was dire, and many in Britain believed that the war was lost. But Churchill, with his indomitable will and stirring oratory, inspired the nation to continue the fight. His famous speeches, such as "We shall fight on the beaches" and "Their finest hour," rallied the British people and gave them hope in the face of overwhelming odds. Churchill also sought to build strong alliances with other nations, particularly the United States. His close relationship with President Franklin D. Roosevelt was pivotal in securing American support for the war. The two leaders worked together to develop strategies for defeating the Axis powers, and their partnership became one of the most important diplomatic alliances of the 20th century. Under Churchill's leadership, Britain endured the Blitz, a sustained bombing campaign by Nazi Germany that targeted civilians and infrastructure. Despite the devastation, Churchill's resolve never wavered, and he continued to call for total victory. His leadership in securing the eventual defeat of Nazi Germany and his pivotal role in the post-war world order made him a global icon. Post-war years and later career. After the war, Churchill's popularity reached its zenith. However, his party lost the general election of 1945, and he was ousted from office. Nevertheless, Churchill remained active in politics and continued to be a dominant figure in British life. He returned to the position of Prime Minister in 1951, though his second tenure was less defined by wartime leadership and more by the challenges of managing Britain's post-war recovery. Churchill's health began to decline during his second term, and he retired from politics in 1955. He spent his later years writing, painting, and reflecting on his life. His memoirs of World War II became a bestseller, and his works on history and politics solidified his place as a leading intellectual figure. Churchill passed away on January 24, 1965, at the age of 90. His death marked the end of an era, but his influence continued to be felt long after his passing. He was given a state funeral, and his contributions to Britain and the world were celebrated by people of all political persuasions. Legacy. Winston Churchill's legacy is one of resilience, courage, and vision. He is remembered not only for his leadership during World War II but also for his long career as a politician, writer, and statesman. His speeches, writings, and actions shaped the course of the 20th century and continue to inspire leaders and citizens alike. Churchill's steadfast belief in democracy, freedom, and the importance of resisting tyranny made him one of the most influential figures in modern history. Churchill's life was not without controversy, and his views on issues such as empire, race, and the British class system have been subject to criticism. Nevertheless, his legacy as a wartime leader and champion of liberty endures, making him one of the most iconic figures in world history. This account of Winston Churchill's life spans his early years, political career, and lasting influence. From his struggles as a young man to his defining role in World War II, Churchill's remarkable journey continues to inspire admiration and study across the world.